Hello and welcome to this week's show of Weighted Donuts. I'm Wayne Unger and I'll be flying solo tonight. And I'm very happy to have a returning guest, New York Post columnist, one of my favorite columnists, Kernan. Kevin, welcome.
How you doing, Wayne?
I'm doing great. So, listen, I know you've been bouncing from one end of Florida to the other, so we're gonna get right to it.
Good.
Okay, I got a question for you. Somebody mentioned, that the way Tanaka is looking, there's no ifs, ands, or buts that he's going to opt out at the end of the year. Now, on paper, like on the surface, I should say, it would look like a no-brainer should he stay healthy this year, but he's got 3 years left at $22 million. He does have a tear in his ulnar nerve. Do you think it's a slam dunk that he's going to opt out? And if he does, do you think it's a slam dunk that he's going to do significantly better than what he has coming the next 3 years after the season from the Yankees?
Well, it depends what kind of year he has. If he has a good year, he'll get, he'll make some more money. And, it would not surprise me to see he opt out because these guys always opt, for the most part, always opt out.
Right. No, I understand. I just, I figured, the climate, we've seen a little bit of, a little bit of change in how teams approach the free agent market, although the very best still, get the top contracts. But there were a lot of guys left hanging this year, and after what happened with David Price and how Steven Strasburg got injured right after he signed that big extension. I just kind of wonder if teams might just approach things a little more cautiously. But
some teams might, but all it takes is Wayne. Wayne is one, that.
Yes.
Or,
yes.
It's the Dodgers. Maybe he wants to go to L.A. Who knows? But I don't worry about those things. I think too much of sports broadcasting and sports writing is about what's going to happen in the future, and to be quite frank, it bores the heck out of me.
Gotcha. So tell me, right now, Greg Bird's been given the job. Do you see the Yankees possibly releasing Chris Carter? I don't know if they've passed that vantage point where they can save a ton of money and release him now, but do you think that might happen?
Yeah, basically they had $3 million to spend. It's like as far as the budget, so they spent it. They've had a bad track record, if you look, of guys they've signed for like fill-in roles or those type of roles of, Dustin Ackley's, those types. And, there's a reason why this, Chris Carter got no offers after hitting 41 homers. And, if they can save a few bucks, I'm sure they will. There's, the thing that scares me about this, again, I only had to see Greg Bird hit once to realize he was okay. But they actually went into the season thinking that, Greg Bird might be an issue because of his shoulder, I guess, and that's why they signed him. I can't tell you how or why these teams think. All I know is that they waste a lot of money all along the board. There's another $3 million down the drain, and that's 3 million more beers they'll sell and to make up for it.
This is true. So, besides the obvious, do you see any surprises? With anybody going north with the Yankees, and particularly in light of Gregorius's injury?
No, it seems like they're going to just go the boring route. They're not going to push Gleyber Torres. They have their plan, and they're sticking to it. And I get it. He's only 20, Torres, but if it were me, it'd be a no-brainer, and I would take him up. And I wrote that column earlier this week. But I get what Brian Cashman and the Yankees are doing. It's the safe approach. But yeah, I talked to a lot of scouts, a lot of people. If you can play, you can play. It doesn't matter if you're 20, 21. And you know, most fans, because fans panic as well, and they think that somebody's going to have an emotional breakdown if they don't do well early on in their career. But this kid's very solid, and he'll be fine when he just does come up here. Whether they keep him down or bring him up, I think you're going to get the same player, and you just may get the club saying, well, you know, it was the right move. He's doing great now. He came up now. When we brought him up, he's doing great. Well, it might have been the right move right now. I go back to 1988. I covered the Padres. They had a kid running around doing great things. I kept writing that they should call him up because, again, I know baseball and I know who's good and who's not. And I knew this kid was good, and they were trying to keep him down for financial purposes. I don't think that's the case here. I just think they think it's part of better growth for Torres to give him some A-ball time, double-A time. And, again, I have really no major issue with it. But my point is you have an opportunity. It's not like he's got to stay here forever. Let him come up for a little bit. But if they want to go to Tyler Wade, that's fine, Triple-A kid. My problem would be if they just played Torres. You know, if they just played him. Because he's a backup, and, you know, he's a backup for a reason. I give somebody an opportunity here. Fourth and fifth starters are a little bit wide open at this time. I'm sure Mitchell will get a spot. I would not be surprised to see Severino start in the minor leagues because they really don't need a fifth starter for like 12 days in. But, you know, they got a good, you know, overall, I like the young talent, I like what they're doing. And they do have, I talked to us yesterday, he said, you know what, Kevin, I probably listed 12, and he's talking about lower minors and minors guys. I have 12 guys that are legitimate prospects for the Yankees. I never had that many for them before in the past, and really not for many teams. So that's a really good sign for Cashman and the Yankees.
So you think Severino will be the fifth starter when they need him?
I don't know if he will be, but I think he'll start the season in the minors, get his act together. He's been terrible. I've seen him pinch once or twice, and he's had no command. Doesn't get it yet, and he is still very young. Now that's a guy I wouldn't mind being in the minors because I think he needs more time in the minors to be a starter. I really do, and I think he's a much different case than Torres. So I think it'd be a mistake rushing Severino up, and I think it'd be okay to rush Torres. So that's basically how I feel in those two situations. Okay.
Now, looking at some of the Yankees' rivals, I know you've seen some of them in the spring. What can you say about Boston, particularly with David Price out, and they're not really sure when he's coming back?
Yeah, it's not good, obviously. You know, that was way too much money they paid for him. I didn't get that contract to start. I didn't feel like he was I don't know if he's a Boston kind of guy for that kind of comp. He's a little bit like Adrian Gonzalez doesn't fit well in Boston, I think. We'll see how he is physically. Having said that, Chris Sale's a tremendous addition, so I think that's a win. Price, who knows? You know, you never know with arms, and I'm not close enough to the situation. He's got a lot of innings on there, and you know, clearly he's got some issues with everything that's going on, and that's one of the reasons why you need to get the most out of the arms when you can, because you know, for the most part, at some point, they break down if they're not, especially this day and age, Wayne, because they just treat them so differently. I don't agree with about 95% of how they get pitchers ready these days. So I think that there's a lot of mistakes being made by organizations, especially when they're young. And it's easy to blame, well, when they were in amateur ball, you know, their weekend coach let them go 12 innings. I think that's a cop-out. I think they don't prepare these guys well. There's way too much weightlifting, and it's all coming back to haunt them. And we have the new generation of super educated GMs telling us that, you know, the big problem, of course, is that it's the innings, you know, it's the innings now. Well, they baby the guys in the minor leagues, and then they don't know how to pitch when they get up here, so their pitch counts go high. So basically, the whole formation of pitching right now in the major leagues is a complete mess.
I have to agree. I've had a few different, you know, schools of thought, I should say, as feedback. John D'Acquisto told us a while back. He agrees with you about the weightlifting. He said he noticed that he sees pitchers lift after they throw when they should be stretching and winding out. And Al Downing said that when he used to pitch batting practice, he said that was extremely helpful to him. He said even though he wasn't, trying to strike out a batter, he said just having to work on location, just having to be around the plate, he said that helped him.
That's a great point, actually. Yeah, I agree with that. That's a great point. And I've had, again, our problem is we talk to the old timers and they don't give any respect to the old timers. I remember talking to Al Jackson about that as well. Just learn how to command first before you learn how to throw 100 miles per hour. Just learn command. And there's all different ways to learn command, and BP is a great way to do it, and it makes a lot of sense. But they've reinvented the wheel, and they've created a square wheel, and that's what we got right now.
And also, I think now, a lot had to do with fantasy ball, and a lot had to do with card collecting. Was the huge focus and exposure of the minor leagues, which probably started in the mid '80s, and so there's so much hype and so much pressure on these guys. Weaver, Baltimore. You remember they had so many successful pitchers come up, and Weaver said they bring a guy up. They don't care what kind of stud he was in the minor leagues. They bring the guy up. He's a spot starter, long reliever, mop up guy. That's how they prefer to break a pitcher in to the major leagues. And there might be something to it, particularly when you look at how successful Severino was when they used him in relief last year. A lot less pressure on him, not going through the lineup as much. Like I say, some time to hone their craft against the best. You raise the bar, but you put them in the right situations.
Yeah, exactly. So, and you also put them in a situation where they get to maybe work on things. But my question now is, because of the way they're brought up, I don't think they get that. Even if they're brought up in that role, they don't get that kind of exposure because of the way the game is played now. And the bottom line here, Wayne, is that clearly there's something wrong with how they're getting these pitchers ready, because we're getting just so many. I mean, we always had arm injuries, but there's so many different arm injuries now, so many things going on. So I think it's hilarious how they don't really look at themselves in the mirror as organizations and entire baseball unit. I think there's something as simple as, I remember when Ed Whitney used to pitch for the Padres, he used to always have an issue with his elbow, so he would get what he called thumbed out. He would get thumbed out. So basically it was like a massaging of soft tissue. I think that's one of the biggest things they could do nowadays, and I don't think they do that properly either. I think they need to have that arm and that shoulder worked on all, kind of like you see in the old boxing movies, get the guys, get the blood flowing and things like that. But everything is so different now, and the results have shown that it's not right, but they're not changing it. They're actually doing it worse, and to limit everything to pitch counts and not mechanics and or treatment of the arm to make the arm more loose and pliable, especially after so much pitching, to me makes no sense at all. But that's the way they do things. So I think we're stuck with it, and it's not going to change.
Yeah, it's sort of, it's forgetting to go back to basics. There's that old saying, if you never forget the basics, you don't have to go back to them. So
I like that. Yeah.
And what about the Mets? I know you spent a little bit of time in St. Lucie as well, Port St. Lucie. What can you tell us about what's going on with the Mets? Is the way they're shaping up there, particularly their starting pitching?
Yeah, it's going to be dynamic. they're he's Syndergaard. He's pretty interesting. And then you got the other guys. Gazelman, Lugo, Wheeler. I think that's going to be a project. I don't know if he'll come back that quickly. We'll see how it goes. I'm really excited about DeGrom. I think DeGrom might be their best pitcher right now. But again, we got to see if all these guys can hold up. And then they all have a history. Everyone except for Syndergaard has had the surgery. And I think we got to be patient with Matt Harvey because coming back from TOS surgery is very difficult. Talked to Alex Cobb from the Rays. He said it took him, after he had the surgery, it took him almost into August of the next season to really regain his velocity and his command. So those are the things you're looking at. But I think clearly, I think the Yankees will be better. I think they, another guy we didn't talk about with the Yankees, but Chase Headley's he's really got to pick it up. But I think Greg Bird will be, he'll be a big difference maker for the Yankees. For the Mets, dude has got to stay healthy. That first base is so important. David Wright, we know that situation until he starts throwing. If he can throw again, you can't even count on him. And then the bullpen, I think, is also an issue for the Mets right now, which for me, Addison Reed, I think is going to be it's going to be, it's a little different closing than setting up. And so, but I do think that they have so much starting pitcher. And again, I bounce around to a lot of teams, seen a lot of teams playing both the Yankees and the Mets. And nobody has anything close to the starting pitching the Mets have. And, so I think that's why they'll be where they need to be.
Speaking of relief pitching, after the World Series, do you think we'll start to see managers like change the role, change the traditional relief roles? Like instead, you may see an Andrew Miller, you may see a closer go in, in a high pressure situation in the seventh inning, as opposed to bringing him in with nobody out, nobody on in the ninth.
They say they're going to change it, but I don't believe it. I don't think they're going to change it. I think they'll go by the same old thing. When you get to the playoffs, you'll see the stuff you saw last year. Kuzkas has a valid point that he used to do that kind of stuff all the time, and nobody really noticed, or they did notice. He made the Hall of Fame, obviously, but that's the way it used to be. But I don't think you'll see guys like. Now, if you have two closers, you'll see Miller used in that capacity with the Indians, and Francona knows what he's doing for the most part. So you'll see a difference there. But I don't think you're going to see wholesale changes now in how closers are used.
And so the other teams that you have seen, who besides the Yankees and the Mets, who have you think you've gotten a pretty decent look at? That you can give us some.
Well, the Florida teams for the most part. The Florida teams, and again, all the teams haven't been the teams because they've had teams in they've had players in the WBC. So, that's basically, I haven't been in Arizona, so I don't know much about those teams other than what I've seen. And so the Florida teams, I've gotten a pretty good feel for it. Nationals will be better. They got a lot of talent. Harper looks tremendous. Yeah, he looks a lot bigger than me. Stronger. Played very hard against the Yankees the other day in West Palm when I was there. He's 2 years away from free agency and wanting to be a Yankee, so I think you'll see him turn it up a notch. I think Nationals will be pretty good. Phillies don't look good at all. I think they got major issues. It's going to be a while till we see a good Philly team. Baltimore is intriguing to me. I think people are discounting Baltimore for some reason. They're not giving them enough credit. I think they got some talent. They got some great hitters. Machado is the guy. Maybe you'll see in the future the Yankee. Maybe him, not Harper, if the free agency comes around. So, but that's a good club. Their pitching's a little shaky. like I said, most pitching is a little shaky, so we'll see. But those are some of the things I've seen. And again, it's really hard to see anything now at this point of the year because everybody's basically ready to move forward and get the games going. And one other point with the Yankees, I like what I've seen from CC. I think he's trying to reinvent himself, and he'll be competitive. And maybe that's all it takes, but that's some of the things that I've seen right there.
What are your thoughts on Pineda?
Not a fan. Seems to be the same Pineda the other day. I was at the game where it took him 33 pitches to get through the second inning, and he couldn't get through the inning. He seems to me to be the player when everything is, he's got great stuff. He's a big dude. And when things are going well, things are going well. And he can get outs, but it doesn't seem like he knows how to, when he needs to make an adjustment or fix something that's not working right, he doesn't seem to be able to do that. He's always doing the gyrations, and I think he's been overrated his whole career, and he'll probably continue to be overrated.
Other than the Yankees and Mets, have any players really opened your eyes that you might, when you like going to different games, that like anybody just like really stand out and say, wow, I never saw that from this guy before. Like
no,
maybe
not
he's
really.
turned a corner. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, Kevin, I know you're really short for time, and I really appreciate, you coming on and making the time.
Okay.
I hope we can get you back when the season starts, and we'll see how things start to round into shape.
Okay. Good luck. Take care.
Thank you, Kevin. Have a good night.
So.
And that concludes this week's version of Weighted Donuts. Yes, I know it was a little short, but I wanted to hear from Kevin Kernan, get a little eyewitness news, so to speak. So anyway, have a good night, everybody, and we'll be back next week.